everyone, and welcome to a special two-part episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers Podcast. I am Jody Grunwald. This week, my guests include Coley Campany and Kim Berrios Lin. Coley is a writer, director, actress, and producer. She connected with the Labyrinth Theater Intensive Ensemble, where she began her path as a writer and visual storyteller. It's also where she met Kim Berrios Lin. She co-wrote a play in 2016 called Stillbirth, a play about pregnancy loss that combines stories of various ways pregnancies end. The pandemic inspired Coley to write and create her own work. Coley can be seen on screen playing Linda in Candy on Hulu, Dee Dee Robertson in The Eyes of Tammy Faye, also on The First Lady, Watchmen, and the upcoming season of Heels and Mike. Kim Berrios Lin is an actor, producer, and writer. As an actor, you can catch her on HBO Max's Pretty Little Liars, airing July 28th in a recurring role. Other credits include Better Nate Than Ever on Disney+, The Politician on Netflix. She can also be seen on Pose, New Amsterdam, Almost Family, and Bull. Kim is the founder of the award-winning socially conscious indie production company And She Flew, co-founder of the social justice theater org Colors of Community, and is on the advisory committee for the Zach Giaplotter Kids Foundation. This episode was recorded just days before the Supreme Court ruling on abortion. We take some time here to discuss the importance of women's rights, as Coley has a very personal story to share. Another topic that we touch on is how predominant eating disorders can be in the entertainment industry. Coley and Kim are the best of friends and share their personal stories here in the hopes that it helps someone who is listening feel supported. Please subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel. Stream this podcast on all streaming sites. Reviews and shares are always welcomed and help us to be heard. Like us on Facebook and Instagram by going to Today is the Day, Live It. To learn more about Today is the Day consulting and coaching services and the new Today is the Day Changemakers Connective, go to todayisthedayliveit.com. Sign up for our mailing list to be notified when new events and networking opportunities become available. Also, I am the CEO and co-founder of the Zach Giaplotter Kids Foundation. To learn more about how the organization is connecting children with a financial need to an ongoing creative outlet, go to applaudourkids.org. The views expressed by all Today's the Day Changemakers podcast guests are their own. Their appearance on the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast does not imply any endorsement of them or any entity that they represent. Have a great week, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast. I am Jody Grunwald, and as I say every single week, I have the honor of interviewing the changemakers, those who are disrupting the status quo in the best way possible, the inspirers. And today I have two amazing guests, Kim and Coley. Hi, how are you?
Hi, thank you for having us.
Yes, happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here, and we're bi-coastal on this Zoom and podcast, so I'm even more thrilled to have you here. So thank you so much. I'm going to do what I always do. I read a little bit about you, and then we get into a conversation. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Great.
All right, awesome. So I'm going to start with Kim first. Kim Berrios Lin is an actor, producer, writer, and mom of two little wildlings. Oh, I like that, wildlings. That's a new one. I like that.
They're wild.
How old are they, Kim?
My daughter's 7 and my son's 4. A month ago was my daughter's birthday and my son just turned 4. They're really good ages. They're still little and they still need me. So
yeah, those are the best ages. Keep it. I got 20 and 24. You're in good shape. That's a good age. You have a good ages. As an actor, you can catch her in HBO Max's Pretty Little Liars, airing July 28th in a recurring role. Woohoo! Other credits include Better Nate Than Ever, Disney+, Pose, FX, New Amsterdam, NBC, Almost Family on Fox, Bull, CBS, and The Politician on Netflix, just to name a few, right, Kim? Her acting passion projects include a love fest of a comedic series currently making a festival tour called Supermodel Twinning, playing Karula. Am I right? Karula?
Yeah, right.
In Karula's Dream Show Live, a part scripted, part improv dream interpretation show, and performing in Stillbirth, a play about pregnancy loss. Kim is the founder of the award-winning socially conscious indie production company And She Flew, co-founder of the social justice theater org Colors of Community, is on the advisory board for the Applaud Our Kids Foundation. That's my foundation, so I'm so excited that she's part of that, and holds an MFA from the Actors Studio Drama School. She is an ensemble member of Barefoot Theater Company, Labyrinth Theater Intensive Ensemble, Playful Substance, and Rock the Bells, a sketch comedy team that she performs and writes. As a writer, her poem I Am We was recently published in Yellow Arrow's journal Renaissance. Is that right?
Renaissance.
Renaissance. Okay. Kim is also the soon to be proud patent owner of a product because she's not busy enough. She invented called Yogi Saver. So, oh my goodness, Kim, welcome. And that's
Thank you
just
so
an
much.
incredible bio.
Thank you.
Now, Coley, I'm going to pronounce your name Campany, right?
Campany. Yeah.
Campany. Coley Campany calls herself an idea generator and loves to take projects from conception to birth as a writer, director, actress, producer, whatever. I love that. I like the whatever in there too. She loves collaborating and looks forward to blending all the fantastic artists she knows while creating cool art projects together. Coley began her artistic career as a professional ballet dancer in Memphis, Tennessee, where she danced for 12 years. In 2012, she moved to New York to start a new career as an actor. Coley connected with the Labyrinth Theater Intensive Ensemble. I'm seeing, some sort of pattern there, where she began her path as a writer and visual storyteller. It's also where she met Kim, as we said. She covered a play in 2016 called Stillbirth, a play about pregnancy loss that combines stories of various ways pregnancies end. Coley includes her own story of having 2 late-term abortions in the play. She continues to tell her story to spread awareness for women's reproductive rights, and we're going to talk about that today as well. After moving to Atlanta in 2017, Coley added another arm to her career path with comedy. She's a founding member of the sketch comedy Mikas. They've made several sketches for stage and screen, and the pandemic inspired her to write and create her own work. Several sketches came out of that time, including Supermodel Twinning with the fabulous Kim Berrios Lin here. This year, Coley finished a passion project that is now making the festival circuit called I don't want to say it wrong.
A Scotia Skew.
Scotia Skew, a 2-woman film sketch series. I love that. Coley can also be seen on screen in Candy, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, The First Lady, Watchmen, and the upcoming season of Heels and Mike. Wow, I'm amongst some amazing and incredible women today. So thank you for being here.
We are too.
Yeah, we are too, Jody.
Mhm.
So I normally don't read everything in a bio, but there was just so many good things in there. And so and what I love is the dynamic of who you are. It's not, I, like you, juggle multiple things who make up who I am. And so somebody told me it's called a multi-potentialist.
Ooh,
And I just loved that.
I love that.
Heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
gonna
so
add
there's a
that.
TED Talk about it, and it's an awesome TED Talk, and it's about being a multi-potentialist. So
Taking
let's get
notes.
started.
Me
Is you
too.
taking notes? Yeah, I love that. I'll send you the link. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Somebody sends it to me, and I'm just going to forward that. It's a really good TED Talk.
Thank you.
So let's start, Kim. You and I met by total chance, which there is no such thing, right?
There's no such thing. Yeah.
And then we moved on to then you being on our advisory board. But I want to learn more about you too today as well. So I want you to tell the audience, if you don't mind, where you're originally from.
Sure. I grew up in New Jersey. And then, I moved to Florida for a little bit, and then I lived in New York City for a long time, and I'm back in New Jersey.
Awesome. And Coley?
I'm originally from Mississippi, right outside of Memphis, Tennessee. And so I kind of spent my life between Mississippi and Memphis. And then I moved to New York at the age of 35 and was there for almost 4 years, moved to Atlanta, and now I'm in California.
How long ago did you move to California?
Very recent. I was here for 4 months. Last year is kind of like a trial run, and then officially moved in at the end of February. So I'm brand new.
Awesome. Well, we'll have to connect you with some of our friends over there, and I'm sure you have some already,
Yes.
but there's more connections to be made for
I'd
sure.
love that.
No problem. So what was life like growing up as little Kim and little Coley and just to learn a little bit more about you and your past. So Kim, we'll start with you on that question.
Yeah, sure. So as far back as I can remember, I was this sensitive little empathetic, absorbing little thing that always was just craving love. That's all I remember. I just remember just wanting hugs and wanting love and being very creative from a really young age. I remember my mom tells me I was 3. I don't know if that was the exact age, but I remember performing Material Girl in my cousin Bobby, who Coley knows, who's also an actor, in his garage where we would have family parties. I remember going up on a chair and performing Material Girl, and like just the rush going through me, and like the feeling that like even back then, like I didn't understand the words I was saying. They were just coming out, and having that sort of feeling, and just knowing from that age that I needed to be on a stage somewhere. I grew up in Edison. Well, I think we can say where, but Edison, New Jersey, a small town. And we didn't have a whole lot. We didn't have a whole lot growing up. I shared a room with my brother. I was on the bottom bunk. Then I moved to the top bunk, I think. My brother decided. We were very, very close. And somehow my mom basically raised us by herself. And not that my dad wasn't around. He was just working 7 days a week. And I'm first generation. So the work mentality was very, very present there from my dad. And so he wasn't so much a figure in my life. He's more so now. He was just always working, and that was like the priority. And now as a mom, I have no idea how my mom did it. And my brother and I were 2 little clowns. Like every time we got in trouble, we would try to make her laugh. And like, I just don't understand how she did it. She somehow, when we didn't have any money, she somehow managed to basically fight to get us any kind of class that we wanted. And I remember hearing arguments because our house was like this big of like, we can't afford this. She said it. And I remember my mom just fighting for me, just fighting and saying, we have to find a way. She loves this so much. It's her passion. Like, we have to find a way. And my brother was in karate, and I did karate, and anything we wanted. I don't know how she did it, but she somehow managed to convince my dad that we had to find a way to make it happen. So very grateful for that. I wouldn't be here with you both right now if my mom didn't do that for me.
But that really, just to continue with that, you were doing that, but that wound up not being your path at first, right?
It was not. No, it was not. So I grew up with I'm first generation. So I grew up in a household of like, hold your emotions, and there's definitely trauma here, but we're not going to talk about it. And because I was so empathetic and so sensitive, I do understand now that I've had a lot of therapy, that I was absorbing a lot of that trauma, without even knowing what it was. And so I had a lot of wonderful things. That's something I'm concentrating now in therapy, of concentrating on all the positive things that happened in my life. And there were a lot, but it's somehow we always remember the negative. But I was a depressed child, and I think maybe most artists were that way. I don't know how you feel about that, Coley, but I was a depressed child. I at the age of 11, was the onset of my bulimia that I had all the way until age 32. I do remember always turning to, I had this book of Shakespeare, and I could read, but I had no idea what I was saying. But I would read it and I would cry because I knew like the emotion that was being expressed. And I think Glennon Doyle talked recently about living in the minor chords. And I think that's what artists get to do. Like the minor chords is just like, we can understand the pain being expressed. And if we can understand that, then we can help to heal the pain, I think. And so that's what I remember as a child. And then I remember dancing and feeling like that was the only place that I could truly express myself, that I felt like I was this vessel of emotion. And I'll be honest, I was good at dancing as well. I think my mom passed that down to me. She was dancing to salsa and merengue ever since I could walk with her. And I just felt like I was good at something. I wanted to make my parents proud. I wanted them to tell me that they loved me. I wanted to all of that, but being an artist really helped me at least express my emotions. And that never went away.
One thing I want to state here, which I think is really important, is these are two incredible humans who are willing to share their vulnerability here to help those, because we've had pre-conversation, to help those listening whom can benefit from the, what they're sharing and the lessons learned. So that's what's beautiful about this conversation today. So Coley, I want to give you some time to talk about your, trajectory.
Yeah, like I said, I grew up in Mississippi, and I kind of straddled between two very different worlds, in that I grew up in a very kind of conservative Christian white environment. My home life was not that, but that my surroundings were. But everything I did, which was like ballet and church, it was all in Memphis. And Memphis is a majority Black city, so there was a lot of diversity around me. But also, I was in a very high arts situation. So we kind of grew up in a lower middle class family, and I just kind of was exposed to a lot, which I think has been key for me as I have become an adult and grown and things like that, that I can kind of walk through different, kind of just all kinds of different people, which I love. But I think that all got instilled at that time. But I grew up, I started to dance and be on stage when I was 3 years old. So I've been on stage since then, and it's where I feel at home, and kind of didn't care about school, was asked to join a company, the ballet company in Memphis at 16. My parents dropped me off in New York City by myself when I was 15, I think, for a summer. And I was afraid to talk to anybody because I didn't want them to hear my Southern accent and know that I wasn't from there. So I just wouldn't talk. But it also kind of gave me like a bit of an independent spirit. I mean, both my parents were just blue collar. They both worked for the airlines, but they both were artists in their own way. And my mom thought it was super important that we were all exposed to kind of the fine arts. And I think she just secretly wanted to be a dancer herself. So she put us in that position. And I danced professionally right out of high school, and kind of I've had a bit of a winding road trying to find exactly where I wanted to put my energies, but it's always been in the arts in some way. And as we know, the older we get, everything like contributes. So it's not like I wasted time or anything like that, but everything has contributed to kind of where I am at this point.
Your path, though, hasn't really been a straight line, right? Because it was dance. You're acting now, right?
Yeah.
So you're acting now. So when did that pivot happen?
It's been winding, because after I danced for a year when I was 18 and 19, I was looking at my friends and they'd all gone to college, and I was like, I think I need to do that too. I didn't really have guidance. So I just kind of was like, wherever the wind took me is where I went. So I quit dancing because I didn't realize what a special thing I had, but I quit dancing and went back to college. But then instinctually, I think I needed a creative outlet. So I auditioned for the local A Christmas Carol and stepped on stage as an actor. And I was like, I'm home. Like, I never felt that way in dance, but the minute I did as an actor, I was like, this feels like home. And so I started pursuing that. And then I went back to college. I went to SMU for a year and as a dance major. And all I really got was an eating disorder from that and a lot of student debt. So I quit after a year and went back and started acting again and came out to LA for a minute. And then 9/11 happened. And I was like, well, I think I'd rather be with my family and friends. That feels more important to me. Those kind of moments, whether it's that or the pandemic, they can be very clarifying. And so for me at that moment, I was like, I want to go back and be in the community that I know and love, and came back and registered for school again. I was in school for 8 years, but I'm not a doctor. I changed majors constantly. But I ended up getting pregnant and got married because that's what you do in the South. And within like 2 weeks of finding out, like it was crazy. But I lost that pregnancy before the marriage. But then I got married was in college, found my way back into ballet, started dancing professionally again and teaching for 11 years. And in that time, I was a part of a ballet company that did a lot of outreach. And so that was something that became very important to me. We would go into the inner city and host like workshops and then pull out kids that we thought had, a desire and talent. And so half the student body was on scholarship, and it just was it was a very like purposeful ballet company. It wasn't just like, we're just here to dance. There was more to it. And so that started that also fed to where I am right now, which is some advocacy. And so then, I danced, and it also helped me because it was a kind of grassroots company. And I took on a lot of directing and choreographing. And so kind of really by necessity, more so than desire. If there's a hole, you just fill it in those kind of organizations. And so I, in that time, was trying to get pregnant and I had like 4 miscarriages and 2 late-term abortions. And by the 6th time that all happened, I was in really bad shape. I quit dancing. I left my marriage. It was just the whole thing. And then a week after my divorce was final, I got on a plane and moved to New York City and never looked back. And, just moved there with 2 suitcases, knew no one, didn't know what I was going to do there, and showed up and just started plugging away and found myself on the road that I am right now, which is acting and writing and directing. Yeah.
Between the two of you, we could be on here for 10 hours because I have so many questions. Pam 10 is a leader in IT enterprise solutions and staffing. They are driven to transform their clients' business performances. They do this every day by providing their clients with the best services and products. Products like BizLego, an online community platform, and Coleer, a unique learning management system. They also transform the lives of women and children through their associated nonprofits, SheTech, which supports women in and joining the technology field, and Softkin, support organization for kids in need. Pam 10, technology for social good. Go to pam10.com for more information. So you both mentioned about eating disorders, and I think it's really important that we just don't go bypass them and not talk about it for a second, because somebody who's listening could benefit from hearing, you've both are you've moved through. And I feel like, you tell me if I'm wrong, it's something that, when you're dealing with it, you're dealing with it. And it's something you have to keep in check throughout the rest of your life. So, Coley, when you said, you developed that from being where you were, how did you move through that process to get to the other side?
Well, I never got like official help around it. It was part of the kind of the culture of dance. And I was constantly told to lose weight. I had a very, my ballet teacher was fond of saying I had a very voluptuous figure. And that's not what, you want, or you didn't at the time. Now, if I had the role models that they have right now, it would be a completely different story. And I would have been happier probably dancing. I was very miserable because I just, nothing was ever good enough. And I think it just took kind of going through everything I went through with my body with the pregnancy losses, because that was a real journey through hating my body and feeling like it had failed me. And so kind of the eating disorder and those two things kind of came to a head. And I just kind of found myself like, I've got to make peace with this vessel that I have. And so it's just been an ongoing thing. I don't suffer with it anymore. I really, once I hit 40, I was like, this thing, I want to be able to move well as I age. And that requires me to really take serious control of eating very well and taking care of health and things like that. So that's kind of where I am right now with it. Just you. Personal journey. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, an ongoing personal journey for sure. Thank you, Coley.
Yeah.
Kim, you mentioned about bulimia, correct? And
right, yeah,
and dealing with that. So share kind of your journey through that, right? Because that's how long you said it was a long time you were dealing with that. So it was probably a different road for you.
It was, for me, it was, as I mentioned, I was always wanting to gain the love and feel loved. And so I always wanted to feel like I was doing the best and being so successful, right? And making my parents proud. I was just always trying to prove something. And in that perfection, I felt like I lacked control. And I think that I always had body dysmorphia. I remember always seeing myself and looking back at pictures and saying, what, like, what was I seeing? My mom is wonderful and she's my best friend, but she definitely struggles with her weight and body dysmorphia as well. And I think that just being a child who took everything in, I mean, I saw that as well. And then the other thing is that I think that a lot of people can relate if they have parents who are immigrants, that a lot of culturally, these families show love through food. And so I remember my dad couldn't say I love you, but he could make me the biggest omelet possible. And I was this big and the omelet was this big. And I remember I used to try to eat a lot to make him proud, because he would be like, look, my girl can eat so much. And that was in his culture, that was important, because that means you have enough money to have food, right? And so if you eat a lot and you're a little more plump, then that shows that you're wealthy and you're abundant and all that. But for me, I was staring at myself in leotards and seeing something that wasn't there. And then also trying to like eat giant meals and make my dad, and it was this perfect storm. And I remember the first time that I binged and purged, it was after one of these big breakfasts. And I remember purging and going, wow, that was so great. And I should have said trigger alert, because it wasn't so great, because it was a lifetime of shame and guilt and just striving to be something that I could never fit into. But it went from going, oh yeah, that felt great, to why do I do this? And I remember so many times there's this mirror on my bathroom, and I would just stare at it and go, I hate you. And like, this is what I was doing as a child, and just everything was secretive, and everything was shameful. And I was constantly lying, making up reasons to go to the bathroom, and I think that if I had, the reason I'm so open about it, and I know that sometimes it's cringeworthy when I talk about things, I just think it's so important, because I know that if I had someone who was a role model to me, or even an adult tell me, I went through that, here's how I got out of it. Like, you're not seeing your true reflection in the mirror. Like, this is how I love you. Like, if you need love, I love you, like, let me be your role model. If I would have seen that or heard that, or honestly, if my mom had access to help on how to help her daughter, because like, I couldn't even imagine if my daughter was going through that and not knowing what to do, and just like not having the tools. So I'm very spiritual. I wouldn't say I don't follow a certain religion. I believe in a higher power. And I've been praying for years. I had been praying for years and years and years. And then I finally made it to my MFA program. And I think we'll touch on this, but I had quit my job. I wanted to go back to acting. I'm at my MFA program. It's a 3-year program. I'm at year 2, you have to go through 3, third year is just your thesis the whole time. And then, and I had been praying this whole time, please, how do I get out of this eating? Just like, how do I break free? And then I got pregnant. And it was not planned. And I was with the person that I knew I was supposed to be with for the rest of my life, my current husband, my partner. And I said, oh, so now I'm pregnant, and my career as an actor is over after I just took this giant leap. It wasn't the case. But the one thing that did happen was I valued my body, and it was actually the answer to my prayers. Not only did I have this gorgeous little perfect girl that I had dreamed about for years before that, she was also like the answer to my prayers, because for the first time, I valued my body, and I valued what I was putting into my body. And it was a little bit of a struggle at first, but I learned that how important nutrition was. And after that, I was in remission. with help and therapy and everything. And it's still ongoing, but that's my journey with bulimia. And it still takes a lot of work, and I'm working at it every day, learning how.
You're a beautiful soul. And I so appreciate both of you are, and I so appreciate you sharing. It's very intimate. It's like I said today, and I'll repeat it again, that this is a very vulnerable conversation, and we hope that people will listen, learn, and will be able to grow and thrive from what they're hearing from us today. Real quick, Kim, you said you're first generation, so just tell everybody where your parents were from.
Yeah, my dad grew up in Taiwan, and my mom grew up in Puerto Rico. And I mean, I know some people may say that's America, but it's not. It's Puerto Rico is its own place. It's not America. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you. I know you mentioned it, but I wanted just everybody to be clear about that, because you've touched on it a few times. Now, Coley, your experience is different, and you said something different about your body, right? Your body wasn't listening, to the things, and you talked about late term abortions, and I want to just touch on that. I know you've been through a lot, and I know this is not an easy conversation, and I know that you're actually taking your experience and putting it out there through your art. And so can you share a little bit of, if you're okay with it, about your experience dealing with this and how you are portraying this through your art?
Sure. Yeah. As I mentioned, I've had four miscarriages and 2 late term abortions. And I had 2 miscarriages before I got pregnant with my son. And because of that, I was high risk, and I was taking 2 shots of heparin in the abdomen a day, and just to keep the pregnancy going. And at 5 months, I discovered that he had polycystic kidney syndrome and a couple of other abnormalities, but that one was going to be fatal for him. And the doctor just basically came in and said, there's something wrong with your baby. He's not going to live. I'm sorry. You've got 3 choices here. You can carry to full term, we'll deliver you, or you can have an abortion, or you can induce and deliver, which is also a late term abortion. It's just a different way of doing it. The other 2 we don't do. And here's a list of places that will do it. You can give them a call. Good luck, and just tell us what you want to do. And it was just, it was the moment that everything in my world changed. It just changed me forever. And you never get over it, but I definitely, after the second time it happened, I just knew that I was supposed to talk about it. And I didn't know how, when, where, what. But the kind of resonating question was, what about all the other women? Because I happened to be in a family that had access to, we ended up, let me back up a little bit. We looked at the list in our shock and horror, and found out that the closest place, most of the places on the list actually didn't do it. The closest was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and it was a clinic. It wasn't a hospital. And knowing what I know now, I probably would not have survived, because being in a clinic setting, and basically they would induce you, the process would be they induce you, and then they would send you back to your hotel room to labor. Well, I was able to get into the hospital in Memphis because my family knew someone who sat on the board. And so one of the things that I talk about so openly about this is that, this subject is often, first of all, it's usually talked about wrong. Most people just have these horror stories of what late term abortion is. And it is horrific, but it's not the way it's usually depicted. Usually something has gone terribly wrong, and we need more compassion, not less, and more access, not less. And I happened to know someone, or my family knew someone who sat on the board. So we were able to get into the hospital. So suddenly doctors who said we can't do it all of a sudden could. And so morality to me went out the window when money was on the table. And I just want people to really understand that. I think we all understand that innately, but I'm here to say it's the truth. And that's why I said, what about all the other women? Because I realized I was in a very unique and good position for what it was. And I labored for 30 hours. It was the most painful thing I've ever experienced. And I've experienced 2 broken bones and, just all kinds of stuff. And had I had to do that in a clinic, I just don't think I would have survived it. I really don't. And the decision was very hard, but I wanted to be able to hold him. So we did induce and I did deliver. I was able to hold him. We were able to, have pictures and dress him and bury him and, have the whole thing. And then it happened again. And that time I opted to be put to sleep because I couldn't mentally handle it. So I was put to sleep and they did the procedure. And that was pretty traumatic because, as I'm driving myself to St. Louis to have this procedure done, and every billboard says, you're going to hell if you have an abortion. It's like literally billboard after billboard. And even after a year after I delivered Arlo, we got a notice from our insurance company that said that they would not cover it because my life wasn't at risk. So that was another battle that we had to fight. It's just the whole reproductive care system is really, it's no surprise, but it's lacking, and it's in someone's darkest hour that because of policy, we're making it even more dark, and it shouldn't be that way. And so I, as I've kind of grown as a artist and as an actor, I started writing, and really my writing started as a way to process what was going on. So I'd write poems and monologues or scenes or something like that. And it was really just me processing. And I met another woman, Robin Parrish, and she was going through a miscarriage, and she was also a writer and an actress. And we both were talking about, she was currently going through a miscarriage. So I was talking her through that. And we both mentioned how we had wanted to write a play, but we were waiting for a partner. We both had said that. And so we started exchanging the things that we'd written, and then kind of silence. And about 6 months later, she reached out to me and she said, "Send me everything you've got. I've got a theater company that's interested in doing a reading." And I was like, "But it's nothing. It's literally like just chicken scratch." She was like, "I'll put it together." So we did. And even the play as it is right now, it still looks like a patchwork quilt of, even just the way it's formatted, which we need to format it correctly. But we began the process of doing readings at first. And then we've done, I think, 4 productions in New York City of Stillbirth, the play, which is a collection of, it was her story and my story, but we also bring in other women's stories. And we just talk about the way that pregnancies end. And we don't think that people are talking enough about it. It's usually a kind of silent experience for women for whatever reason. And there's various reasons why that is. A lot of it's shame, though. And I am also very vocal about, our current situation with Roe v. Wade. That decision may come down today. I've been told to wait for it today or Thursday. And I think that that's wrong. I think that we don't need less care. We need better and more care. And I just simply can't keep quiet about it. So Kim and I have been doing this letter writing campaign called Dear Supreme Court, where we're actually asking people. It just ended yesterday. We've asked people, invited them to actually write the courts themselves, as opposed to going to our politicians. I'm like bypassing that altogether. I'm like going to the source, going there and trying to explain to them, because it seems like they don't quite understand the gravity of what they have in their hands, the decision. And so we have been hoping that people will send letters requesting that they reconsider, and whether it's from telling their own story or just telling them what they feel and what they think in a respectful way. But so that's kind of where I am with that subject.
And Kim got to play you, right?
She did.
So just quickly tell us how that came about, if you don't mind.
Sure. So Kim and I met at the Labyrinth Theater Intensive Ensemble, and we had some interaction, but we were in different groupings. And when Robin and I put together this play to do it in New York, Kim was like on our short list of people that we wanted involved. And she said yes. And she's always said yes. And I was originally going to do the role. And I think, honestly, like energetically, I think that I wasn't prepared to I wasn't ready to do the role. and I happened to book work, and Kim was the understudy, and she stepped in, and I was like, it's perfect. That's exactly the way that this is supposed to go. And so Kim played me, and she played me beautifully. Did you do it once or twice?
Twice.
Twice. Yeah. And she just got it. I don't know that she's ever had the experience, but she got it. And she was just so beautiful. And I felt completely trusting that she was in that role. And yeah, it was pretty neat.
Well, you two have a very much our kindred spirits and soul sisters, as you say, because, and when we first chatted together, the three of us, because I knew Kim first, I definitely feel like you can finish each other's sentences, and you totally get each other. And the empathy and compassion you have for each other is just so pure and beautiful. It should be so much more out there in friendships. I feel that's unfortunately, there's sometimes cattiness, and I feel like you guys just embrace each other, which is just beautiful. But Coley, I just want to go back to what you were talking about, because I think it's really important. I don't think a lot of people really truly understand the gravity of the situation with Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
I don't think they understand if what you just said before, which you were 5 months and the baby was not going to be able to live outside of your body once the baby was born. So at that point, you are now in a situation to make a decision, because to go through the entire pregnancy and then not have the baby with you anymore is so, it's already at 5 months so hard. I miscarried in between my two kids, and I was 12 weeks. The baby's heart rate stopped at 10 weeks. And of course, at that point, I was able to have a D&C and move on. But to not be able to do that when you're in that situation for a woman, emotionally and mentally, is horrific. And so this is, you know, whatever anybody's political beliefs are and all of those kinds of things, this is about women's rights.
Yeah.
And it's, if you're not in that situation, it's a very difficult to truly understand. So it's important to listen to those who have been in that situation so that you really do get a full understanding. So I just felt like it was important to share that.
Yeah. And I will say that because I have been so vocal and tell my story so openly, I have had, it's interesting because I've had several people reach out to me, usually direct message, because again, people are just so silent around women's bodies. It's really interesting. And I don't fault them, but you know, the tool that's been used is shame, and shame is very effective. And that's why it's used. And, but what they've said to me is, you helped me to think about this differently. And I'm not trying to change anyone's minds. I'm just trying to tell them the experience that I've had and let them decide for themselves after that. But I do think it's important that it feels like important work for me. So it's why I just keep talking, even though it's not easy. It's really not, because I have to keep kind of remembering the experience.
And in the best way that you possibly can, you are honoring those that you lost, you know.
Yes.
I mean, and that's the beautiful thing when we do things like that in honor of people that are no longer with us. And you know, just for those who may be listening, who may be going through a lot of the same as you, emotionally, mentally, do you have anything to offer, to share, that has worked for you for coping?
That's a great question. Well, I hope that the work that I'm doing is part of that, because I was thinking about this yesterday. I desperately looked for help around this issue and found none when I was going through it. And at the time, you know, maybe the internet wasn't quite as vibrant as it is today. So maybe there are more resources, but there were none for me at that time. I would like for them to know that they're not alone and that they can get through this. And you have to walk through the fire. And this is actually one of those examples that you have no choice. It's not like you can turn and say, I'm not going to deal with this today. You have to deal with it. And I know for me that experience changed me in the best possible way, because it gave me empathy, although I already was an empathetic person, but it gave me empathy in a way that made me someone who sees someone who's in pain and stops and says, what do you need? Because it just gave me this ability to kind of be present with other people's pain. So I wish I knew of really great resources. I don't. And I think that's a hole in our society. And if other people that are listening know of them, I would love to know what they are. I've even tried to find groups on Facebook and they're usually hidden. They're usually hard to find. But I don't know. I just know that it's terrible, and it's a choice it's like you have two terrible choices and you have to pick it. But I think it made me a better person. I hate to say that, because I wouldn't necessarily want to go through it again, but I think there's potential. I think everything that we experience, that there's something in there for us. That's what I would say. There's something in there for you.
Absolutely. These tragedies happen for a reason, and we don't know what they are, but the learning on the other side, all of a sudden, whether it's you being an advocate, right? So that now you're advocating for others. Last question on this topic, which is stillbirth going to be anywhere? Are you continuing with that?
We are kind of preparing to pitch it to some theater companies, one being the public. We just feel like the time is right for this subject societally. And we know that we've been doing it in a very grassroots way. And I personally can't do it that way anymore. I need a lot of support, and I need financial support. So we are kind of preparing for something that has more support around it. And so that's really what we're looking for next, but we're in the process of preparing the play for that. Yeah.
Well, keep us posted, because we will promote wherever it is going to be seen, since this is an international podcast. So wherever it's going to be, we will push it out there for you in any way we can.
And if anybody that's listening is like, oh, I know a great theater, that just let us know. We're open to all suggestions.
That's awesome.
Really powerful piece. I will say that it's a mixture of movement and some spoken word and some straight play as well. It's just really powerful. And at the end, it's about a community of women coming together and sharing their stories. And there's the audience connection to everyone on stage is like no other experience ever. No other experience I've ever had. And I admire Coley for so many reasons. This is just one of the many reasons, but for someone to alchemize what she's gone through into healing is just incredible. And Jody, I hope you get a chance to see it wherever it is next. Because it is
absolutely.
It is something special. It's something really special and powerful.
Thank you. And there is some levity to it.
There is. There really is. Like, it's funny at parts. Yeah. It really is.
And it's pretty short. So I just, it's not like, I know it's a very heavy kind of conversation, but we do bring the audience into the conversation at the end of it. We invite them to kind of like give us their thoughts and experiences and questions and things like that, because we understand that we've created a container of something that is very like emotionally powerful and taxing. And so we want to make sure we're not just like, bye, send you on your way. We want to really kind of complete the circle.
Have fun crying in a corner somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
well,
we do it for all the women that I thought about back in 10 or so years ago. That's who it's for.
And yeah, absolutely. And you may wind up getting more connections through the different, and more that you talk about it, all of a sudden you'll get DMs and things like that. People, I'm sure, will try to connect with you. A very special thank you to Coley Campany and Kim Berrios Lin for sharing their very personal journeys with us in part 1 of Through the Dark, A Stage Light. Join us for part 2 coming soon. And remember, today is the day You cannot go back to yesterday, and you do not yet own tomorrow. So what small or large steps are you taking today to get yourself closer to your goals? Have a great week, everyone.